welcome back to the Promoted Podcast, the podcast which helps you get promoted and be great when you get there. I am your host, Felicity Furey, CEO and co-founder of We Aspire. And today I am joined with the fabulous Renee Wootton Tomlin, speaker, aerospace, can I say nerd, aerospace, passionate, that didn't make sense, aficionado, I don't even know where I'm going. Renee, you love aviation, you love engineering, you love inspiring the next generation. So good to be back with you.
So good to be back, Felicity. Calling in from Larrakia country today, and just feeling really excited to be back into recording with you. We've got a really interesting topic today, Felicity. Do you want to fill us in?
Yeah, well, we did just say before, and I said this is very relevant to me at the moment, which you may laugh when I read out, but we said it's very topical because it came up for me this week. I was on a podcast with Fembot. Can't wait for the episode to come out. They're interviewing amazing women in STEM. Renee, I did recommend you as well, so look out for that.
Sweetheart.
And they said, is it about faking it till you make it? And I thought, gosh, that could be a whole podcast episode, because I think we often get given this advice, fake it till you make it. And I just feel like it's never sat right with me in my gut. And I feel probably because one of my core values, like you, Renee, is authenticity. And then I think, I think it's around how do you generate yourself rather than faking it? How do you create yourself as a respected leader, as someone who has executive presence, those kinds of things? Because it's not like, you wake up one day and you're like, I've naturally got executive presence. Let me go be a boss lady. Like, It doesn't, I don't think it happens like that. Or maybe it does, Renee. What is your experience around faking it till you make it? Have people said this to you before throughout your career?
I've probably given this advice in the past, to be honest, just thinking back on it. And I think contextually, it's really important to reflect on why that has led me and guided me to be who I am and turn up authentically. And if I think back to what this statement means to me, it's that sometimes we overthink things. We think, for example, if we make a mistake, now all of a sudden people think we're incompetent, or you've got to make up for the mistake that you've made, or maybe you've made a call that your boss didn't agree with, and that can be really challenging to then hold space, to take accountability, and to then grow from it. And thirdly, I think that this all is wrapped around a sense of self-security. So I agree with the comment that you've made around it's so important to build yourself up and step into who you are so that you can lead authentically. But at times, I think there is space for remembering that you aren't that important. So sometimes when you think other people are thinking about you deeply and the mistake that you've just made, or the fact that you don't have that much experience and therefore you shouldn't be leading, like these are all the internal stories that as a female in engineering in particular, I've definitely experienced, but also as an executive, a young executive as well, where I'm now working in the fuel industry around predominantly men, particularly in leadership roles. And you see these instances so many times where there is uncomfortability in the way that I'm stepping into a room because I have so much confidence. And I can see how that unsettles other people, or people assume I don't have the credibility that I do because of what I look like. Like there's just so many instances where fake it till you make it actually worked for me. So I'm really interested to have this conversation with our listeners with the two kind of different, perspectives on this topic. I used fake it till you make it in those moments where I had self-doubt. I was like, you know what? I stuffed up, or I've made a call that I don't agree with, or something hasn't gone the way that I had hoped. You know what? I'm going to just let that wash over me. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to push on, even though I don't have that sense of confidence right now. I'm going to present like I do. And that's where I go, I'm going to fake it until I make it. And I don't know if that's the right motto. I don't know if that resonates with our listeners, but that's certainly the way I've applied it in the past. So I'm really eager to hear what it means to you, Felicity.
Yeah, I think it's what I really changed my mind on. And definitely when I was young, I was like, oh, I just got to fake it till you make it, or put your big girl panties on and go have that tricky conversation. And I think my view on it has changed, because I think it's interesting, I think, when you look at it from like a nervous system perspective of how do you hold yourself and that inner confidence. And I think it's sort of related to like that confidence versus bravery, or courage and bravery. And I feel like you get confidence after the fact of something, but you need to be brave. And the meaning of like courage is actually around something around like feeling fear and taking action regardless, even though you feel fearful. So I think you can still have feelings of like, this is scary. I don't know how it's going to go. I feel nervous about that. And you can still have those unsettling feelings. But then I think I feel like now I could never be fake to try and like get to achieve a result. And I think for me, that comes down to, okay, it's actually really helpful for me to notice, how am I feeling about this particular situation? What am I worried about? What are my concerns? And whenever we go into a difficult conversation, we have the FACE framework, which we've talked about here before. And the first step is feeling and framing. So Michael and I said the other day in a workshop, we spend 80% of the time talking about how we're feeling. And once we've almost like gotten to the bottom of that and worked through all of those feelings, then that gives us the power to go have those conversations. So it could be something like, I want to talk to a mentor and I'm really worried about what they're going to think because I've got this decision and I feel like they're not going to agree with me, but I actually want their sponsorship for this idea. Okay, take a deep breath. What are all of those things I'm feeling about it? And actually getting to the bottom of that. So you've got that foundation for yourself of, okay, I do feel nervous because I worry what they think of me. Okay, well, actually, if I'm just really honest and myself, they're going to really respect that. So I think in the past, I haven't probably had those tools and resources and just gone like, all right, just like, I've heard the quote like, smile and dial. Just like pick up the phone, put your smile on and kind of go for it. Where now I think I would take a much more considered approach where actually I would be thinking through what are those feelings. And obviously now I've got more practice in difficult conversations, or I think, speaking from stage is probably a similar time where I'd be like, oh, I've got to be fake. But I feel like people can often sense that fakeness. And as human beings, I love the concept human beings, like we're feeling beings, like we can actually have that sense of how you're being with someone and how they're making you feel. So I think my approach today will be very, very different. And my advice would be different of, okay, you feel like you have to be fake. What's that about? Like, that's the question to go after. That's the thing to actually think about, to do the work on in order to prepare to feel centered and grounded. You might feel nervous still, but you've got a better sense of who you are going into that conversation and why you feel the way that you do and how you could potentially frame it.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think, the concept of fake it till you make it resonates with me in a very different way to how it resonates with you. And in this exact example, being fake is something that I do not align with at all. So I think it's very much, how do you step into that confident representation of yourself, acknowledging your feelings and knowing that it's going to be okay, and that sometimes things work out and sometimes things don't. But if you're being authentic and values driven and really aligned in the way that you show up, generally people respect that, and you will find that the weight of something that you're thinking about and the consequences that you think may come with that are not actually as deep seated or are not reflective of how other people have interpreted things. So sometimes you can overinflate that sense of fear or unwillingness to keep standing up for the things that you believe in based on your perception of others, I suppose. So like a lot of mentors I've had been like, no, you are really capable, and gone, oh wow, okay, that's a misalignment to how I feel about myself. They think I'm capable. Oh, that's an interesting perspective. And the fake is such a tricky word because I think as a leader, you often have to play a role. And I think this is something that people early in their leadership journey, they often miss because they think, the company is going in this direction. I need to announce to my team, this is the direction, even though I don't agree with it. But often as a leader, you're playing a role. So for some people, that the perception of that is, oh, that's fake because you're having to agree with something that you don't actually agree with. But actually, you have to play a role. And I think that is the job of the leader often, to represent different roles. In sometimes as a leader, you need to be directive and say to people, hey, like there's a fire, we need to get out.
or you need to be visionary, saying, hey, this is what we're working on. Here's the big picture. We've got this mission and that stuff. And sometimes in the same conversation, you've got to be all these different things like coaching or pace setting. And so I think it can often be missed as like fakeness is actually sometimes as a leader, you need to play a role. What do you think, Renee?
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think that there is this perception that, let's say that you have to follow a company directive and that goes against your values. I think that there is an additional level to consideration around here, which is sometimes you don't have all the information and there are people above you making decisions that probably have that level of information that they can't always share with you. So it doesn't really necessarily matter sometimes how you feel about something. Your job is to execute. Yeah. And what we're talking about here is really like, whether or not we go with one business case decision or another. It's not huge moral conversations that we're trying to draft here. So in those moments where you don't necessarily align, you have to trust your leaders and trust that the decisions that they're making are in line with the values of the company and the culture of the company. And I think that there is a level of scrutiny where you can go and seek that information and seek that clarity. You might be stonewalled and you might not be able to understand that information. But I think in those moments, true leadership would be, hey, I understand your concerns. This is why we're making this decision. And this is how much I can share with you at the moment. And the rest is up to you. So again, you can kind of then go on and share that with your direct reports or the people around you that are looking to you for leadership. So I think in summary, I completely agree. There is no room, in my opinion, for fakeness. I've never been able to maintain that either. I think to my very core and intuition, I can't maintain being fake about the things that I truly believe in or what I stand for. So that comes with a level of confidence and self-worth that I have built up over my career over many years, which makes me really authentic in the way that I show up. I'm really interested in what was the context that the question was asked on this podcast and how did you answer it in the end?
Oh gosh, this was only like a few days ago that we had the podcast, but I'm trying to remember. We were talking a lot about leadership and I guess how you have to often be in these kind of male-dominated, engineering or tech fields. And I think I have to go back and have a listen now, but I think the context was that it was, we're talking about career journeys and what it's been like. And I think sometimes I have been in those situations where you have to really stand up for yourself and you have to push forward. And it's a very, it could be adversarial or a very kind of almost like unlikely scenario. And I say unlikely, like I'm the junior person trying to lead something and I'm much younger than a lot of people around me. And so, I think it was asked from the sense of, are you faking it till you make it? Do you just have to like go with it? But I think often I have felt like I do have a sense of maybe it is that self-worth or respect for myself or the projects I'm working on ultimately have, are delivering something that's good for people, whether it's a road project or infrastructure or something else. So I think, I think it was kind of asked, like, how do you use that as a tool or a strategy to get through? And maybe I'm having like podcast regret of how I answered it. I think I felt like I was a bit wishy-washy in my answer and then the topic got onto something else. And so I feel like I'm hijacking our podcast, Renee, to like make the wrong
to reset the narrative.
I feel like I could have answered it better on the podcast, but it just got me thinking because in one mind, I can see both schools of thought. I can see that, and I feel like there's no wrong answers here. Like if you were like using fake it till you make it to go, achieve whatever you want to, and that's working for you, and that's a really great. That could be a really powerful reframe. And I think certainly when I was younger, it was like, okay, just suck it up and just get on with it. There for me because I didn't have the tools that I have now. Where now I feel like I would be much more thoughtful around my leadership and I would use it as a strategy to go, oh, I'm feeling fake in this scenario. What is that like gut feeling or like what's there for me that makes me feel unsettled about this conversation. And I think it is quite different now in the context of my work today, because I do run my own business, so I do get to make a lot of decisions for myself, and I have a lot more freedom of choice. Where when I'm working in teams or organizations, particularly I'm thinking back to local government, where you are working for your constituents and for the people, that's ultimately your stakeholder and who you're working for. So you do need to make decisions with them in mind. Or if you're working on a big piece of infrastructure, you've got to think about the state government, their constituents, the people who are operating the tunnel or the piece of infrastructure. It's their business. There's lots of different stakeholders that you need to think about, and sometimes you are playing that role as a leader. So I think I feel like it's one of those things that people just say, and we don't actually spend the time to think about what does that actually mean. And it was a longer conversation than sort of the time we had on the podcast, because we didn't have much time to really dive into it. But I do feel passionately about really like you said, listening to your intuition and your gut and who you are and what's important to you. And I do wonder, I feel like imposter syndrome is talked about so much these days that it's like, oh, is fake it till you make it just like a strategy to kind of get through imposter syndrome and sort of like, overcome that. So if you're listening to this and fake it till you make it is working for you, and that's a really great reframe, I think go for it, like if that, but I've just been interesting to notice when the question was asked that my views on it have really changed over time. And now I would just use different strategies. And I think you just, no matter where you are in your leadership journey, we're constantly learning new things, and sometimes things work for us. And then sometimes I feel like it's time to retire certain things. And for me, fake it till you make it is probably one that I will retire.
Yeah, I love that. And I honestly think it's contextual, but it's cultural, and it's also, I think, a slogan, or how do I explain this? Like, it's something that helps people articulate the fear that they probably feel in a situation. So for me, this is very much if we really want to pick apart this slogan, this motto, for me, it would be acknowledging that you go through fear, you feel out of your depth sometimes, and a true leader will continue to pioneer the narrative, the thing that they are standing up for, or step into that leadership role with or without permission from other people. So giving yourself that permission to kind of keep fighting for or keep delivering that project, or acknowledging the uncomfortability around you, whether it's being the only woman on the floor or having an opinion that goes against the grain of everybody else in the room. Stay true to who you are. And I guess that is the message that comes away from fake it till you make it is not about being fake. It is about stepping into your leadership role, irrespective of the circumstances around you, but always doing that with compassion for yourself and the people around you, and a level of empathy as well in the way you deliver messages. So I think if you are staying true to incredible values like honesty, integrity, and, just making sure that you're doing things with the best mindset and approach possible, you will always make it.
Yes.
So that's it.
I love it. And I just want to call out, leading is really hard. I think if anyone has had, particularly your first role, it is the hardest you can possibly have. You're making that transition from technical leader into leading for the first time. You're kind of juggling, you got one foot in each world. And I think as you get up the chain as a leader, you have more resources, you have more of a team around you. You can really specialize in the stuff that you're exceptional at and build your team around you. But in those early days, it is really, really hard. So I really just want to call out.
Really hard today for me as well. Not even just in the early stages. For me, I had a really stressful week last week as a leader because I stood up for what I believed in, and I made a mistake last week, but I also learnt a lot last week about different cultures and leadership styles. So no matter where you are, sometimes it does feel like you just have to keep pushing through and wait for the consequences to unfold, because you don't always get an answer immediately, or, the consequences don't immediately show themselves. So how do you sit in the uncomfortability but keep pressing on and keep charging for the change that you want to make? And I think that that's the message today, is it is felt universal. No matter who you are, no matter what you are about, what you're achieving, what industry you work in even, pushing through and being a leader can be really uncomfortable and it never really stops. So I'm going to wrap it there, Felicity. Any final thoughts?
Leadership. It is hard and it will continue to be hard. Excellent. I love that. But do you know what? Actually, Renee, I will just add my final thought. If you are wanting to make your leadership a bit more clear for yourself, or you do want more confidence, we are running the Uplift National Roadshow with We Aspire. We're going all around the country, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Cairns and Townsville. I almost said them as like Townsville, Cairns and Townsville. And we are running it completely for free because we know how challenging it is to be a leader. And we want to give you the skills that you deserve to be the best leader that you can be. So check out the We Aspire website for all the details and to grab your free ticket there. Renee, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure as always. I feel like we've got so many topics for the next several thousand podcast episodes just from this one conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. We are so grateful to have you here.
Right back at you, and always a pleasure. And I can't wait to tell so many other stories for our listeners to keep learning and being incredible when they get promoted. So thanks for today.
Thanks.